listening to the Cricket Collective here on TalkSport 2 with me, Neil Manthorpe, and former England fast bowler Steve Harmison as we build up to England's 5-match T20 series against the West Indies, which is live and exclusive here on TalkSport 2. We'll hear exclusively from England captain Eoin Morgan and West Indies all-rounder and former captain Jason Holder. And we'll be joined live from Barbados by England fast bowler David Payne. As well as that, we'll be joined by the guys from the Caribbean Cricket Podcast to discuss how the hosts are preparing for the series. So, as always, there's plenty to fit in over the next hour. You're listening to the Cricket Collective on TalkSport 2. I mean, it's a new-look squad for England. We're used to seeing that. I mean, we'll never, I think, have the unprecedented situation where England replace an entire squad as they did before the Pakistan ODIs in the summer. But there's some exciting names. Three who could make their debuts: Phil Salt, George Garton and David Payne. We'll be speaking to David a little bit later on. 4 left-armers in the squad. Maybe that's a subject that we can bring up with him. But you and I share a mutual excitement for Phil Salt. He's been, I don't know whether due a debut is the right way to put it, but he's certainly worth one.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's nice to see that players who have done well in the system coming through, i.e. the T20 Blast, are getting rewarded with call-ups. Garton, I quite like. I've enjoyed watching him in franchise stuff. So I'll be intrigued to see how he goes that one step up, because I think it looks as though he's going to play. Yeah, David Payne, who has an experienced cricketer who's played a lot of cricket, done fantastically well. And Gloucester have been very, very good in the Blast. I know they're not one of the sort of household counties, but when it comes to the longer format of the game. But in the Blast, they have been very, very good and competitive in a number of years now in white ball cricket. And David Payne has done fantastically well for them. So it'll be interesting to see how he fits in and where he gets to go. But you're right. I think Phil Salt has somebody who has knocked on the door for the white ball team for a while. And it's difficult to get into this white ball side. And it's interesting that it doesn't look as though he's going to play in his natural place. We look at the warm-up game that have just been played. Tom Banton opened the batting and Phil Salt came in at number 6. So whether there's a change of role for Phil Salt or they're just trying to get everybody a game and just fit them in anywhere, I'm not so sure. But I'd like to see Salt get a game, because I think he's knocked on the door for a long time now. And I think he deserves his chance.
I'm going to ask you about Sam Billings. He posted a picture on Twitter looking out of his aeroplane window, describing his journey to get from Tasmania to Barbados. It was Hobart, Sydney, Miami, Los Angeles, London, the moon. I can't even remember it. I mean, but just unbelievable journey. And he's going to keep in all 5 games by the looks of it. Yeah,
and it's good for him as well. The one thing about Sam, he has travelled the world. He's not caused any fuss. He's not come out in the press and said, I deserve my chance when things haven't gone so well for England. He seems to have been a good guy to have around. Not too dissimilar to the coach when he first started, Paul Collingwood, when he first started in the England setup in the sort of late 90s, early 2000s. It was quite a strong side to get into, so he struggled to get in when he was first around, because bear in mind, I think Collie was first talked about playing for England in 1999, 2000, I think it was, when he made his one-day debut. He didn't play international cricket until a lot later than that. So a little bit like Collie, he was a good bloke to have in a dressing room, good tourist, everything that goes with it. And it seems that Sam's fallen into that category. But now he's going to get his chance with Joss and Johnny not being there. You know, he's gone via the moon, the stars, in everywhere, which way but loose on an aeroplane. He's cracked up some air miles. He's probably got more air miles than you, Manners, to be fair. But he's managed to get himself in a position to hopefully stake a claim in both formats. This is a big chance for Sam, and I hope he takes it. I really do. There was positive signs in his movements when he was in Test match cricket. I liked his positivity. He was trying to be a little bit more positive. He wasn't too bad in defence against a fantastic bowling attack in Australia. But now he's going to get his chance in white ball cricket. And I just wonder, with that Phil Salt, is Sam Billings going to go in at number 1 instead of Tom Banton, who I think kept yesterday? or will he fit in that middle order at number 6? And Tom Banton, just goes in as an opening batsman. So it'll be interesting to see how he fits in. But I hope he takes his chance because, sometimes these good guys that go around the world and, fits in nicely in the dressing room, doesn't always get their rewards. But fingers crossed for Sam, he does.
What about your old mate Collie making his first appearance as head coach? And I don't mean this in any way disrespectfully, but how do you see his role? Because, Owen Morgan's, he runs the ship. He's the man behind the wheel. He makes the decisions. I would imagine that he'll be selecting the starting 11s as well. So what does Collie do? To report to Owen Morgan's hotel room and say, what would you like me to do, Skipper?
Yeah, possibly, quite possibly, but that seems to be a well-run machine. There's a lot come out of Owen Morgan's interview with Scott Taylor in TalkSport last week, and he is the man in charge, and rightly so, because he's earned the right to have his final say in everything that goes on in that group. I actually think this is a very, very good match. When you talk about matchups, I think this is a very good matchup, this England duo of Morgan and Collingwood. I think they both get on very, very well. Talking about split coaches, I don't see anybody other than Collie to take the one-day side. And people will say, oh, well, you will say that because he's your mate. I can put it out there. I didn't speak to Collie for a number of years. Me and Collie didn't have the best relationship when we come to playing because we had different ideas on how the game was played. But I respect the guy like you'd not believe because of the amount of cricket we've played together, the family crossovers that we've had in each other's spaces over the course of the last 25 years. We had a different opinion on the way the game was played, but it never clouded my judgment that one day Paul Collingwood will be a fantastic coach, and he is a good coach, and I think he will coach this one-day side going forward. I would urge them to give him the job going forward. If they're going to split it and Silverwood goes or Silverwood stays, I think the matchup between Morgan and Collingwood is a very, very good combination. And I think long-term, going forward, there's no way Owen Morgan is going to take the England cricket coach. I don't think he's got too many bigger fishes to fry from that point of view. But I think when Morgan goes in a year or 2 years' time, depending on how long he wants to go for, I think a Butler or a Stokes combination with Collingwood would work very, very well as well. So while the one-day ship is sailing rightly with the wind and a good lick, I think this is a nice combination along with Trescothick, who's in there as well. I think there's quite a good dynamic between Morgan, Collingwood, Trescothick, and I think Anthony McGrath's there as well. So I like this coaching unit, and I think it's got mileage.
We're joined by Michelle St. Patrick Hewitt of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. It's a great listen, by the way. If you're not subscribed, then you should do so. It's entertaining and informative. Michelle, thank you for your time, mate. How's preparations going for the West Indies? Everyone recovered from that Ireland ODI series yet?
I hope they've recovered, but I haven't. But yeah, I think the nature of the global cricket calendar is you haven't got that much time to kind of think about what happened before because we're straight into it versus England. So let's hope they're raring to go.
And Michelle, we talk about that can be unpredictable in the West Indies and the inexperienced group that they've got. Is it a case of they'll turn up, Bridgetown, Barbados, full house against the best team in the world? Are we expecting the proper West Indies to turn up, or is this something that the West Indies are just going to have to put up with and go through?
Do you know what? Because I think we have to remember that the kind of golden generation or T20 golden generation is done now for the West Indies. I think if you lose that many experienced players, yes, they had a bad World Cup, but if you lose that many experienced players all at one time, you have to go through some kind of rebuilding process. And I think in this squad versus England, other than Kyron Pollard and to an extent Jason Holder, you'd actually argue that everybody else in the squad is still fundamentally learning their game at the international level. So versus a powerhouse England team, I'm still calling England powerhouse is shorn of some of their best talent. I think that the unpredictable nature of T20 means you'd still expect West Indies to win one game because that happens in all kind of T20 series. You kind of win a game here and there, but make no mistake, England are the favourites here.
And Phil Simmons has turned around and said, talking about the regional game, we are the same in England about the Red Bull game. But what is from a West Indies point of view, first of all, what are the need, and who are these young players that are going to change the forecast of West Indies going forward into the powerhouses that we want them to be, because world cricket needs a powerful West Indies.
I mean, it certainly does. It's interesting to see England and West Indies going through what effectively is an existential crisis at the same time. And I would say that England will get out of theirs much quicker. Ours has been going on for about 25 years now. England will get out of theirs because at the end of the day, England's is just about priorities and putting the resources in the right places. Fundamentally, I think that's where it boils down to. For the West Indies, I just do not believe we have the resources and financial power to fix it anytime soon. In terms of the youngsters to get behind, I'm going to call some names that everybody should be familiar with by now. Shimron Hetmyer, Nicholas Pooran, even a Brandon King, a Fabian Allen. Jayden Seales has taken cricket by storm with his debut this year. But the issue the West Indies will always have is, I mean, I just called some names, right? Of those names, Fabian Allen has never played a test match. Shimron Hetmyer hasn't played a test match in 2019. Nicholas Pooran has never played a test match. Jayden Seales, how long before he stops playing test matches? So there's always that kind of, you can't talk about the West Indies without thinking about the financial reality and how long we can keep hold of players in the maroon. So it sounds a bit pessimistic to say it, but do we have to, kind of like what England did? England prioritised white ball cricket over red ball cricket. Right now, I'd take West Indies prioritising something over something else if it meant we became good in one format of cricket.
A couple of days ago, we spoke to Jason Holder, and he admitted that now he'd turned 30, he was looking to play a little bit more franchise domestic T20 league cricket around the world. He was very polite about it, but he basically said you have to maximise your financial earnings as much as you can. I mean, it's a short lifespan. It seemed like that problem, which existed for a dozen or 15 years, had been resolved. It seemed like the West Indies Cricket Board had come together and said, you know what, we cannot stop these guys earning money and playing around the world. So let's let them do that. And then before big events and big tours, we'll get them all together and we won't penalise them. It all seemed to be pulling together, and it's just beginning to fray around the edges again.
Yeah, you make a good point. And I wrote something, granted it was in blog form, I think it was about 3 years ago. And I said at the time, it's when Shimron Hetmyer was creating a storm across all formats of cricket. I think he'd blazed 100 odd in India, which of course then got the IPL scouts on his back. And I said at the time that I called it the Chris Gale conundrum. I said that if we don't heed it, we're going to be in the same position again, but with just a different set of players. And arguably we're here now. We're here now with Pooran and Hetmyer, Fabian Allen, etc. It's not that I don't think, so I'm going to kill a myth here. I do think the players genuinely want to represent West Indies, and I do think they're trying to meet Cricket West Indies halfway. The dilemma is I say halfway, but where is halfway? Now, for some of them, halfway is I'll turn up for the odd bilateral series here and there. For others, it's I'm going to make myself available whenever you need me. And for some, it's, well, actually, I'll play if I feel like it. And I think if I had to criticise, the issue is that there isn't one coherent viewpoint, not from Cricket West Indies, from all players. And I'd like us to reach a point where every single player is able to say, yes, okay, financial realities. I want to be financially stable. I want to look after my people back home in the Caribbean. But I'd like them to kind of meet us a bit more than halfway at this point. I'd like to see Nicholas Pooran play one test match before his career is done. Just one, just before his career is done.
And you mentioned young Searle, who has took the game by storm. But you look at Dominic Drake's, Brandon King. Is this their breakthrough series? Because all eyes are going to be on playing against the best team, one of the best teams in the world, especially in Barbados, where the bright lights, the big city, and the 5 T20s in a short period of time, it's going to be shown all around the world. What are we expecting from these young guys?
Yeah, most definitely, and arguably in the Caribbean context, and this could cause some consternation from some West Indian listeners, but arguably Barbados versus England, arguably it doesn't get very much bigger than that in kind of the history of West Indies, England. I think this is big for Old Dean Smith, as you say, so those names you called the Dominic Drakes, the Romario Shepherds. But to be honest, Harmy, I'm kind of a bit caught in two minds here, because if they have a good series and then we go to India, and if they have a good series there, you know what happens next. so yes, it is big. And I think if they're going to make a name, I mean, Old Dean Smith is already making a name for himself, given what he was doing versus Ireland with the bat. So now's the time to shine. Finally,
the International Players Association, FICA, conducted an annual survey amongst professional cricketers around the world, and there was a seminal moment. It might have been last year, it might even have been 2 years ago, when for the first time the majority of players under 30 asked about their primary ambition, said an IPL contract, not to play test matches, not to represent my country or my region. It seemed like an irreversible step, and you know, the scouts' first port of call tends to be the Caribbean. Are you trying to push waves back into the sea? Are you fighting an impossible tide?
It's not going to be a popular answer, but it can't be stopped. It can't be. It can't be, because the financial. Okay, so it's not specifically about England, but let's use the England example. So right now with the England debate, there's that whole thing about class and so on and so forth, right? Not to stereotype or generalize, but in the Caribbean context, I don't want to give a percentage, but for some of these players, their beginnings are extremely humble. And if you are offered an extortionate amount of money to work less than Test cricket and even ODI cricket, arguably, why would you do it? Why would you go into the field for 5? I know it's the pinnacle of the game, but why would you go into the field for 5 days when actually you can financially set yourself up for life by just globetrotting? So I'm not one to criticize what the players are doing. I'm not one to say restraint of trade, but I am, I guess, one to say an appeal to their heartstrings. And say, we know what it is. You've got every right to do what you're doing, but maybe for the betterment of the region, only play some of the tournaments. That's where the difficulty is. But it's such a fine line to cross for people who have come up from humble beginnings.
Michelle St. Patrick Hewitt, you tell you what, that was fantastic. Thank you for your time. All we can offer you in exchange is a couple of 10-minute sections of Harmy on your next Caribbean cricket podcast. All right. He's in Barbados, so he's available.
Is he ready to come out of retirement?
You ain't got a shirt big enough. You ain't got a shirt big enough to bring me out of retirement. Trust me, I tell you.
Thank you very much, mate. Thank you, Michelle. Appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
We're joined live by David Payne from Barbados. After 2 long, hard days of trying to get the Wi-Fi working from the beautiful Barbados, and after all, who needs Wi-Fi in Barbados? But David, it's great to have you. Thank you very, very much for your time. All going well? Settled in?
Yeah, all going well. Apart from the Wi-Fi conundrum at the start, no, that's all. That's all sorted though. So yeah, settled in, lovely, beautiful place. Really enjoying it.
I mentioned at the top of the show that we know Owen Morgan likes a little bit of left arm in his squad, but he's indulging himself with this one, isn't he? With 4 of you.
He is. I think that was a surprise to most, but actually something I've probably campaigned for a little bit, in terms of we always choose the left armour as the point of difference, but actually why can't you have the right armour as the point of difference? And actually, you know, it's nice to have a few left armours. It gives me a lot of guys to pick their brains and learn from as well. So it's it's a really nice group to have.
And the left arm option, it's not as though you get a lot, David, with when you go right arm option, you say, right, you've got 4, you know, we've just gone off the back of an Ashes series where we sometimes get criticised for bowling 3 or 4 80-mile-an-hour right arm bowlers, but we've not got 3 or 4 left armers the same, have we? You've got Reece, who's quite tall, Ty Miles a bit skiddier. Do you talk to each other about, you know, what different characteristics you've got and how you can use them in this shorter format?
Yeah, so after the warm-up game yesterday, I spoke to Toppers. I thought he bowled a fantastic spell with the new ball. And he was talking about kind of the pace and carrying the pitches, and he thought they were quicker than he expected. And I said, actually, looking at it, though, I think it might have just been because of his height. I said to him, he had the new ball, obviously, but actually then Saki from the other end didn't look quite as bouncy as Toppers had. And as you say, with Toppers with his height, that's just his unique point of difference, I guess. And he's saying that it's different for Tamal, probably a bit of extra pace, skiddier. So yeah, all being left arm, but all having our own characteristics, I guess, and being slightly different.
And we talked about a lot of talk about COVID bubbles, and it must be tough. And I couldn't even think of being involved in 2 years of a COVID bubble, with my lifestyle when I played. But how hard has it been from a guy that comes in county cricket, then goes into these bubbles, and then comes out of it? When you see the likes of the Test and white ball format players who have played, basically 2 years in it. How difficult is it, first and foremost, and how important is it for the guys that are coming in and out to give the group a bit of energy?
Yeah, so I guess for me it is I'm probably right at the lower end of the spectrum in terms of bubbles, obviously being predominantly county cricket for me, and then just a couple of bubbles. But I still found that any bubble has been pretty difficult when you're just confined to a room or whatever it is. But listening to some of these guys' years, what they've had, I can't even imagine some of the 2 weeks quarantine. As I say, I'm lucky enough that I've probably only had to do it for a couple of days or so. Yeah, it's almost lost for words in terms of thinking about how tough it must be for them. And the amount of days and months probably now that they've racked up confined to a hotel room is beyond me. So as you say, then for guys like me coming into this group, someone a new face, hopefully it is refreshing for them, and I can just provide a little bit of something different, and a little bit of energy, someone new, say someone for them to get to know, someone different in the group, and hopefully that is something different for them. And say the quarantine here wasn't too bad at all this time, so I think the boys are pretty full of energy for this trip.
I heard an interview you did with Sky a couple of days ago, and you were reflecting on the last year or the last 18 months. It's always a big moment, isn't it, when a cricketer turns 30 or is approaching 30. It sounded like you felt there was a fork in the road in your career coming up, or, something needed to happen. And then the entire ODI squad was changed. You were suddenly in the England ODI team, and here you are in Barbados in the T20 squad. It sounds like whatever fork in the road your career took, it was certainly the right one.
No, it definitely was, I say. And last summer was huge for me. I definitely felt a little bit like it was now or never. Felt like I'd been on the fringes for a while. Oh, that's what, that was the hearsay and what I'd been told. And I guess it got to the point where that was almost driving me a little bit mad to, you're just not quite sure how close you are. So to get that call, however means necessary, last summer was huge for me. And as I've said in several interviews, really, it was kind of the spark and the reignition I needed just to know that I am as close as people have been telling me. So I say that boosted me right through for the summer, and then into this winter, it gave me a lot of passion and motivation to hit my winter training hard and believe and hope that this opportunity could arise. And again, when I got this phone call, it was just pure elation to make it to this group, and that's everything I've ever wanted. And now it's on to the next stage and keep going down that fork in the road, and just hope that I can put in some good performances and retain a place in this squad.
David, I've talked a lot about the difference between county cricket and international cricket, and until you made that jump, you can't really comprehend what the difference is. Can you just try and explain for somebody who came into international cricket after a long experience, as an experienced player in county cricket, the difference between playing for a county and playing for your country, and the sort of level of the mental pressure that you're under? Because when you came in last year, it was a whole new side. It was a new captain. Ben Stokes was captain. What was that like? But the difference between county cricket and international cricket is huge.
Yeah, and like you say, I don't think you can quite comprehend that until you get into the environment. Touch on Stokesy last summer, like you say, he was, I think, amazing with that group in terms of helping a whole new group. A lot of them had been in international environments but not played a huge amount. And Stokesy was fantastic, I think, at settling nerves and welcoming everyone and making that group, feel a real part of being in an England squad and putting an England shirt on and being in that environment. As I say, all the experience I've got in county cricket definitely feels like it helps But as you say, you step into that England environment and instantly there's something about it that almost broadens your eyes, opens them up, and like, wow, this is what the talk is all about. This is the next level. And I think it's just a case of everything, every part of cricket and everything you do at county cricket just being that little more intense, a little bit more pressure, and everything's heightened. And yeah, so I don't think you can quite comprehend it until you're in it. And then you, even just in training sessions, as I say, it's given me so much for me, I guess, to look at my game and see actually there's so much more I can improve on in my game. And I think that was probably the biggest thing, that you realise where you're at as a cricketer when you come into these environments. It'll expose you for any little weaknesses you have. Whereas in county cricket, there'll be games probably where you can get away with that. But no, in this environment, it certainly stands out that I think you've really got to be on the top of your game every day.
David, I've got two questions for you. You can take your pick or you can answer them both. How tiresome is the talk that's, after all, been going on about 100 years, about players from unfashionable counties not getting the recognition they deserve? Guys like Ian Cobain and Benny Howell playing franchise cricket around the world and being recognised. And do you think it has been a hindrance playing for Gloucester? And secondly, there's talk about combined county 11s playing intense first-class fixtures against the touring teams in June and July. And you've spoken about your ambitions to play Test cricket. That could be a fantastic sort of springboard opportunity to showcase your abilities.
Yeah, definitely. I'll actually be honest, I didn't know about that, I hadn't heard about that. But if that is the case, then that just probably fills me with excitement, the possible opportunities, like you say, that there'd be 11 guys there with an opportunity to challenge themselves against some of the best. And it could just be the springboard you need to get to Test cricket. If you say, if I can do well in games like that, then then hopefully that might give you the opportunity that you're looking for. And in terms of, going back to your first question with Gloucestershire, I think if I'm honest, back in the past, on reflection, it probably is in the back of my mind whether Gloucestershire did hold me back, and not them personally, but me being at Gloucester. And I don't know. That's for everyone's opinion. There'll be people that say that they didn't, and people that say that they did. But I think the most important thing is that now I'm fully believed that it's an open playing field for anyone now with England, and it doesn't matter what county you play for. It's just about performing well, and you'll get selected. And I think that was probably one of the big things for me with my first selection is, knowing that now that has to be the case, that if I can do it from Gloucester, then it means anyone can.
And you mentioned you can do it from Gloucester. I agree. Me and Collie did it from Durham, and we were only a first-class county for 15 years. So if you can do it, if you're good enough, you should be able to get selected from anywhere. And if you get selected, Bridgetown, Barbados, the atmosphere is going to be unbelievable. Sampled it many times before. It is a fantastic place to play cricket, especially when things are going your way and the noise and the rum's going, especially late at night. What are you expecting from David Payne himself and also the 5-match series as a team?
To be honest, Harmy, I've kind of put my expectations kind of low. I think it's the way I operate. So almost come into the series, the expectation maybe not to play or to get the odd game potentially. It's just the way I've always operate, really, not to put my hopes too high. And I've come into these 2 weeks just to really embrace the occasion, embrace the environment, and learn as much as I can as a cricketer for these 2 weeks to help me better my game. And then, as I say, if then an opportunity comes, if Morgs gives me the tap and says you're playing, then then it's just a case of going out and doing what I've done for the last 10 years, really, and rely on that experience and go and enjoy the occasion. As you've touched on, I think watching these tours before on TV, the amount of fun it looks, playing in front of a West Indies crowd. They always talk about it being a party here, really, and playing in front of the West Indies. And I can't wait for Saturday, whether I'm bib on or whether I'm out in the middle, to just take it all in, just sit there and look around the ground and witness firsthand what it's like to be out here. And I can't wait to hear the noise and hear the roars and hear everything that Barbados will have to offer. I think that it's so exciting for me to be a part of.
David, thank you so much for your time. Really enjoy the series. Enjoy the sunshine as well. It's been fantastic to talk to you, and thanks for getting the Wi-Fi sorted.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Cheers, David. All the best, Matt. I'll catch you over the next few days.
We'll hear more from Owen Morgan now. He doesn't always strike you as somebody who's interested in creating and leaving behind a legacy. Perhaps he just knows that he will, that he already has, actually, the rebuilding of England's ODI team. But this was him talking to Scott Taylor a couple of days ago, discussing that exact subject.
A drive to want to leave the team in a far better place, with the ambition of them continuing to get better down the line. I really enjoyed playing with this group. I've loved captaining, and at this particular time in my career, I couldn't be having a better time. Turning up to a World Cup as either favourites or joint favourites, or real strong contenders, is something that excites me, because the drive to want to fulfil that level of expectation is something that I haven't had a lot in my career, but over the last 6 years, it has been a constant. And it's something that I always think about, because it makes me think about what can we change to get better, or how can we become more consistent as a side. So until that stops, I think things are good.
Yeah, England captain Owen Morgan there, he doesn't strike me as somebody who has an interest in creating a place for himself in the history of the game. I mean, he's not like that. I think he just wants to win. He is aware that he is credited, and rightly, with the complete rebuild from 2015. And it was interesting, Harmy, because after the 2019 World Cup, he did give himself a couple of weeks or even a month or two. He wouldn't commit himself to carrying on. He wanted to see whether he still had the passion and the drive and the hunger. He discovered that he did. And now he's again seems like a man on a mission.
Yeah, it is, and it's great for English cricket. I know there's a lot made and documented what he said in the last week, but I can see some of the stuff he was trying to say. You can't blame the 100 for England's test failures, because it's technically it's been going 1 year when the others have been going 3 or 4. But I think he was missing the point, and he wasn't reading the room right. That the question was about, is the 100 going to get in the way? Time will tell on that one. Your league in the legacy. I think somebody like Owen Morgan, I don't think he probably worries about that. Things like that are you look at when you've finished. So I think the legacy he's left, or he will be leaving when he does go, I think is playing for everybody to see what a fantastic achievement that he has done in transforming the mindset of English white ball cricketers into not just getting picked in one-day cricket off the back of good test matches. Actually, they've actually nearly gone the other way. They've nearly gone picking test match players off the back of how well they've done in white ball format. And that's another feather in Owen's cap. I think he's achieved so much as a leader of English cricket that I don't think he needs to worry about his own legacy. I think it's there for him. It's already set in stone for him, and he's got that. And I thought he was right when he said in 2019, I'm just going to take a couple of weeks, because he could have made a rash decision then of the elation of winning the World Cup. How tight a game it was. Going into the Super Over, he could have in 2 days, 3 days, completely made a mess of his next chapter of his life, because he could have said, right, I'm retiring. And if he retired, he might have been on the broadcasting booth now. He might have been in a coaching booth now, but he's still got a lot to offer, not just from an English cricket point of view, but from Owen Morgan's point of view as well, as a player, as a captain, as a leader, and somebody who retired at 35. I would love to have played on until I was in my late 30s, like one or two other people, because there's no substitute for playing. And I think because he gave himself 2 weeks, I don't think it was a difficult decision. I think he was just buying some time off the elation of winning the World Cup. So I'm pleased he did do that. How long has he got? I think he's probably got another year or two left in him. The shorter format, the franchise cricket, the leadership qualities. I still think there's a lot of cricket left in Owen Morgan. And again, you look at some of our greatest cricketers of all time. They've gone on to play into their late 30s because they've got good values of the game, understanding of their own game, and the dedication to work hard. And I'm thinking the likes of Morgan, and I'm thinking the likes of Cook and Alistair Cook, and Jimmy Anderson, Stuart Broad. Like Joe Root will do that as well. I think that the mindset that these guys have is great for English cricket.
And your final thoughts on the series? It's in the background of 15 or 16, or was it even 17 England players playing in the Big Bash, and I think there's another 15 or 16 being signed up in the Pakistan Super League. In fact, you look at every domestic league, and there are Englishmen playing in it. Is that part of Owen Morgan's legacy? And are these 5 matches coming up another opportunity for? Well, I was going to say Phil Salt, but I mean, he's already playing in 2 or 3 other domestic leagues. English white ball cricket's never been as strong or had as much depth. We know that. Can it get stronger and even deeper?
I think it can get stronger and deeper because these franchise leagues now are there's more value in them. I think the county contract's not as strong as what it used to be. In the last sort of 20 years, the county contract was one that everybody went to around the world. 18 first-class counties had 2 overseas players of high quality. My first overseas player was David Boone. I played with the likes of Shivnarine Chandapal, Mike Hussey, Shoaib Akhtar, some fantastic players. That's not there anymore. That county contract for an overseas player is not as valued as what it used to be because of the franchise leagues around the world. And it's a good thing for what Owen Morgan, and I think as well as not got to forget what Sir Andrew Strauss did. He was alongside Morgan and putting this white ball program together. We need it for the red ball to move forward going into the next sort of 10 years. But I think because of what this white ball team can do, we are getting a lot of players playing franchise cricket around the world, and it can only benefit. And my club has just got another one. I think young Potts has gone to Lahore. Matthew Potts from Durham, who did fantastically well in the 100 last year. That is an unbelievable achievement for that young man because a lad who's worked so hard to get himself in a position to play county cricket at Durham is now going to play in an international franchise on the other side of the world and experience that. He's going to come back a better player. And that's what we want. We want them to go away and come back better players because it will improve our county system, it'll improve our domestic system, but also when they come back and play international cricket, there'll be better players for sampling, other dressing rooms and other grounds around the world.